First off, award-winning author Tracy Shawn has published 2 novels. The Grace of Crows, which is a title I love because it's also a subversion of what is it that? What is it? A gathering of crows? It's called
Murder.
A murder of crows instead of a grace of crows. That's right. And Floating Underwater, her short stories appeared in Literary Brushstrokes, Psychology Tomorrow magazine. Did you make that up?
No, Psychology Today, tomorrow.
I know, it's such a cool title. I had to ask. Steelhouse Review, Literary Journal. Her poems were published in the best-selling anthology, Wounds I Healed, The Poetry of Strong Women. Ms. Shawn has written numerous articles and is currently working on her 3rd novel, ladies and gentlemen. So I just wanted to ask you first the easiest question of all.
Okay.
How did you become a writer?
Oh yeah, that's
Easy,
really
right?
easy.
Just like falling off a bicycle.
The first thing that comes to my mind is because I'm really neurotic. That's why I make up stories in my head and then I make myself cry. And so I decided that it's good for me to get it on paper and share it with humanity.
Well, that's good. When you were a kid, did you jot down these things, or did you start later in life?
Yes, I was always writing, and reading was a big thing. My mom, I have the best, fondest memories of my mom reading to me.
To you.
Yeah.
My mother's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And after you finished your first book, which I imagine was difficult, my first book was like impossible to get published. It took like 5 years. Did you have a tough road?
It's always a tough road for
Yeah.
me. I don't know why. Yes, it was, but I did find a small press, so they thought it was an important book to publish.
That's okay.
And he's a really kind person too, so I appreciated that.
And then when you finished, when that book came out, did you have an agreement with them to publish the second book?
It was only if it was like a continuing of that same story.
Oh.
Yeah, which I didn't do.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh, that's interesting. They wanted a sequel, isn't that weird?
Well, yeah.
I mean, some people I think make a fortune on sequels and more power to them, and they have no story. But wow. So then you had to seek out somebody else when you finished the book.
Well, yeah, he published it, and I am hoping all of you just hold me to this. The first book took 8 years. This book took me 9 years. What? Why? I don't know. Because I try to write every day. So, yeah, it took me a long time to write this. I don't know. I'm not really answering your question. So I did try to find an agent, couldn't, and then I decided to self-publish to have more control over what it looked like and all that.
And by that mathematics, 10 years from today, we'll be sitting here listening to
Let's hope it's 2-3 years. Let's hope so.
And then one thing I think is really interesting is how a novel gets started. And my book was like really weird. Was the origin of Floating Underwater strange, or was it?
Yeah, I mean, what inspired me to write this book is it's a protagonist who has just suffered from her 3rd miscarriage, and I had 2 miscarriages, and I really wanted to write about that kind of loss and grief. Then I threw in the magical realism because I grew up with my grandpa John, who believed in ghosts, and he made me believe in ghosts too. And so I had all of these people around me, my driver's ed teacher who taught me all about Edgar Cayce and reincarnation. So I just wanted to share all that craziness.
Jenny knows this.
Jenny knows this.
Driver's ed.
He probably had to believe in reincarnation because he was a driver's ed teacher. So that's what I think.
Well, that's great, and that's really good. And I don't know, with any further ado, I would like to have you read. And do you need to set up the reading at all? What the passages you will read?
Yeah, I'm going to just tell you a little bit more about the book,
Right.
and it's a short passage. So So I'll start with a blurb on the front cover by Marlene Adelstein, who is a best-selling USA Today author, who was kind enough to give me this blurb. And she wrote, "One woman's mystical journey to move forward while confronting a troubled, mysterious past, beautifully written, and ethereal, eloquent pleasure." So thank you, Marlene, for that. The book follows a woman's journey, Paloma Leary, who has suffered from premonitions her whole life. And when I say suffered, it was because they're oftentimes negative and she wants to get rid of them and she can't. And in this short passage I'll read, it's a discussion. She's just had her third miscarriage. And she goes to her best friend's home, Justine's home, and while she's in Justine's immaculate living room, Justine can be, by the way, quite a bossy friend. She has just had another vision. So I'm going to read from there. And to note too, this book covers themes of mental health and grief, loss, dysfunctional families, problems in the marriage, all that fun stuff that we all live with. So I will start right here. She's just had a vision in her friend's living room. Then, just as quickly as it had struck, the vision retreated. Paloma squinted like an alien who had just landed in the lemon-oiled world of Justine's polished living room. "I know what just happened," Justine said. "You had a vision. Before you try to get Reed on board about adopting again, you need to figure out a way to block them." "Justine, I know you want the best for me, but you have to remember that I've been trying to get rid of them since I was a kid. If there was any way to block them, I would have figured it out by now." With an unintended sigh, Paloma struggled from the cushy depth of the down feather sectional, wondering why her long-lost aunt had showed up in her latest vision. And now, come to think of it, where was her beloved Auntie Ruby now? Justine broke through her thoughts. "Maybe there's something you haven't thought of yet. You know how much your friendship means to me, but no one has all the answers, even you." Paloma stood on shaky legs, planning her retreat, but exhaustion knocked her off kilter. She sank her heavy body back onto the couch. "I'm just trying," Justine frowned, "to help." "I know you are." What Paloma had never shared with Justine was that even though her premonitions were stressful, they did provide a sense of meaning. If she could sometimes see a sliver or more of prediction, then maybe life wasn't as pointless as it appeared. Besides, they're not always so bad. But remember Scott Bentley? Of course. How could she forget? Why are you bringing that up? Justine cocked her head in her curious, finch-like way. "I was just thinking." "What?" "If you learn how to take better control over your own mind, then what?" A bitter taste crept up from the bottom of Paloma's throat. The memory of a long-ago vision she had in high school of Scott Bentley's broken body flashed in her mind, and how later that afternoon a truck had plowed into the passenger side of his cousin's Fiat. From that day forward, she wasn't quite sure if her visions were merely premonitions of what could be, or did her mind somehow cause the actual events. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
And I will field some questions. Anybody want to raise their hand and ask the author anything?
Come on.
Well, the first one.
Okay,
there we
Tracy.
go.
I've read the book and I love it.
Oh, great.
Thank you, Tracy.
Where did you come up with those great names? Paloma, Ruby, those are great names.
Oh, yeah, you know, and I research names too. So Paloma I just thought was a beautiful name, and her dad is originally from Mexico and mom was from here. So I felt like it was a beautiful Spanish name to use. And Ruby, because I love the Wizard of Oz. Ruby, the Ruby Slippers, that's right. Anyone else?
Katie here.
Monte?
Huh?
Oh, sorry. You know, thank you for asking. I think it's because I have to do too much housework. I'm serious. Every day I wake up, I do hours upon hours of housework, and I feel like it's really hard for me to write in a messy house. So maybe Monte, I'm going to take up my husband's offer of maybe getting someone to help me clean. Maybe that will help me out. Maybe. It won't work. I'll still be cleaning. Yeah. Oh, Jenny.
So aside from your driver's ed teacher and so forth,
Yeah.
do you yourself or do you know anything yourself who had such things? These visions?
Like extraordinary. So as I said, my grandpa believed in ghosts, made me believe in ghosts. And then because of him and that driver's ed teacher, I read a lot about it. And I actually, now it could have just been teenage hormones, I don't know, but I actually had an out-of-body experience. And it wasn't as interesting as the one or the ones in this book. So, you know, real life is sometimes boring, even out-of-body experiences. It's just around my own house. I couldn't get out of the ceiling. So.
Were you afraid?
Pardon?
Were you afraid?
No, I was a kid when that happened, yeah. But yeah, I would like to have out-of-body experiences when I could. Melody.
Did you have trouble because of what you're writing about? Just basic realities?
Oh,
So the readers identify?
that, because Melody is a writer as well. And you know what, in answer to that question, it actually, because I deal with anxiety and I'm always overthinking and I'm always worried, like always. So it helps me to think about other people's, these characters, they come into my mind and I wake up and then I think about, oh, what's going to happen next. So it's really good for my brain. So I hope that answers that question. Anyone else? Oh, Diane? Oh, okay. Oh, yes, hi. I love magical realism. Alice Hoffman. I really love Alice Hoffman. It would be great one day if I could get to be up there like her, but that probably will never happen. And of course, I mean, my favorite authors, Barbara Kingsolver and Monte Schultz. I love Monte Schultz's work, DJ's work, Melody's work. So, I have a question right here. The floating underwater? That's a really good question. Thank you for asking. At first it was going to be the girl from the edge of the ocean.
Oh, that's good too.
Thank you. And then I don't know. It's somehow the floating underwater because one of the characters whose name is Serena, she thinks that her biological mother is a mermaid. So there's a whole water theme and Serena swims a lot in this novel. So that's where that came from. Thank you for asking.
Do you have to research to make sure nobody else has that name for a book? Is
I
that a
did.
problem?
And then I saw, it just came out an audiobook, and there is another floating underwater, but I believe it's a musician. So there isn't, yeah. And titles, you can't copyright titles, which is interesting.
So you can have the same name of a book, somebody else can use
Yeah,
that name.
yeah.
My next book is going to be Ulysses.
Anyone else? No.
What were we asking?
Pardon? What?
Sorry.
Oh, he's on the phone.
No, I missed what you were asking. So,
Okay.
it's gotta be-
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. One more thing. I forgot to say this. I want to thank DJ and Diane. And I love Mesa Bookstore. I can be in the worst mood ever, and I walk in there, and I'm happy. And I can always find something great to read. So thank you.
Great. I wish I'd always take my